Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to share with you what I carry in my two garden toolkits. So these come with me in the van to my gardening jobs, and they allow me to do a number of different tasks, as well as being able to fix a multitude of different issues that I might have with my power tools. So they allow me to do a lot of different things in a nice compact and easily portable way. I will of course leave links to all of the different tools that I've mentioned in the description. If you want any more information about them, do check out those links. With that being said, let's take a look at these toolkits. Before I mention my toolkits, I thought I'd just mention that I do like to carry a ball pump. It's a little bit too big to fit in the kits, but it can be really useful for obviously pumping up wheelbarrow tyres and sack barrow tyres. You know, whether it's your own or a customer's, there's nothing worse than pushing a wheelbarrow that's got a flat tyre. So having some means of being able to pump it up is always useful, and this one works perfectly. So this is my main toolkit, and I carry the majority of the tools that I use in this particular toolkit. So the first and main thing I have is this Bahco socket set. I really like this set because it's got all of the bits that I need for my tools, and of course there's a whole load of other applications where a socket set is useful, taking apart my power tools or adjusting my chainsaw. I've also got a pry bar in that section. It can be useful to have something like this for taking screws, nails, taking apart pallets, that sort of thing, and this one's really solid. It's very useful when you need it. On this side I've got just a simple flat-headed screwdriver. I tend to use this just to adjust my chainsaw tension. I find it easier than using the socket set. I also use it to lock my shredder, so when I want to undo it to change or sharpen the blades, and also for the lawnmower as well, I use that so I can unlock the blade on that as well. Then I've got a permanent marker. It's always useful to have a permanent marker, whether you're writing labels or just marking things, writing on pots. I always like to carry one, and this is a Stanley one, which I've been pretty impressed by. It seems to mark really well on pretty much anything, and it seems to last as well. Yeah, always useful to have a permanent marker. Then I've got my FELCO sharpening stone. I use this obviously to sharpen my FELCO secateurs, but also loppers, things like that. Always useful to have some means of sharpening blades, and this is a nice compact one. Then I've got just a simple Stanley blade. This is just a little one, super cheap, but rather than using an expensive knife or anything for compost bags or getting into things like that, these are just super cheap and really effective actually at it. Then I've got a adjustable wrench. This one is the perfect size. Again, it's got a wide enough for the biggest bolts that I have with any of my tools, but also goes nice and small for some of the smaller tools and bolts that I have. And in conjunction with the socket set, I can use this to hold the bolt and then undo it with a socket, or vice versa. So really useful, particularly in conjunction with that socket set. Then at the back here I've just got a simple plier. These are a needle nose. I do prefer the needle nose. I feel that they give you a bit more versatility, and pliers are just so useful whether you're cutting wire or chicken wire or anything like that. Obviously you don't necessarily want to be using your secateurs for that sort of work. Equally, if you're putting in wire plant supports, then obviously the ability to grip and twist with a plier is so much more effective than doing it by hand. So always useful to have a nice plier with you, so that's why I always carry one of those. Then at the back here I've just got a little light and the FELCO tool for any adjustments that I need to make to my FELCO's secateurs. And then in this side here I've just got a few little flat tools that can come in handy. So I've just got a couple of bits of thread. I used to find that a lot of the time my bolts and things like that were coming undone, and one of the ways of fixing that is to wrap a bit of wire around the thread, so that's why I carry those. Then I've got a 12 amp fuse. So for a long time I was using customers' electric shredders and my own shredder, and this was the fuse it took. Invariably, it fused, and without a replacement you're kind of stuck. So I always like to carry a spare. Then I've got a set of these combi attachment. They're the little guide bars that sit inside the connector. They do come out sometimes, or they get bent, so it's always useful to have a few spares. So in my next toolkit, which is really designed for one main function, and that is to turn my strimmer head into a metal bladed strimmer head. So this is the adaption kit. So you simply undo the conventional strimmer head and then fit on this with a metal blade, obviously useful for clearing brash and things like that. So this toolkit is really for. So I have the adaption kit in there, and then I also have these two multi-tools. So this is a Makita one and this is the Stihl one. Obviously they're really useful to adjust the Makita and my Stihl tools as well. When you're taking apart and putting on the metal blading adaption kit, you need one to lock it and one to screw the bolt on. So that's why I carry two of them. Then I've got a couple of combi attachment sleeves. So these just go on the end of the combi attachments. They do tend to wear out, particularly if the Tommy screw has worn as well, so you never know when that's going to happen, so it's always worth having a spare one, otherwise you'll be a bit scuppered. So I always carry a couple of those just in case. And in that same vein, I like to carry a Tommy screw. So this is for the combi attachment. This is what locks them together. They do tend to wear out, so it's always worth having a spare. As I say, otherwise your attachments are going to keep falling out whilst you're trying to use them, so always worth having a spare of that. Then I have a couple of watering attachments. So this is just your standard Hozelock tap adapter and the white adapter for a different thread size. So again, if you're asked to do any watering, it's always useful to have one of these. There's often customers' ones are leaky or they just don't have the right bit. And the same goes for one of these. You know, if you're using a hose and it's leaking all the time, it's useful just to swap it out for that. And I've also got a end-to-end hose adapter there as well. It came as a set, and I always like to keep them just in case, as I do tend to get asked to do watering occasionally. So then I have a gator grip. So this is a type of socket, but it means that you can fit various different sized nuts and bolts in it. So that's useful in itself if I don't have the specific bit that I'm looking for. But what I tend to use this for, and what it works really well for, is if you're putting in a metal plant support or wiring plants on the house, then you can stick your round end of the vine eye in there and then just socket it with a socket or a drill, and it works really well at gripping it, which is quite an awkward shape, but this grips it really nicely and allows you to put it in so much easier than sort of doing it by hand. So there's the tools that I carry in my toolkit. I find that I can do most of the tasks that I need to with this selection of tools. And as I mentioned, if you're interested in any of the specifics, they'll all be linked in the description, so you can check them out for yourself there. If you did find the video interesting and useful, don't forget to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing for more videos like this. And that just leaves me to say thanks again for watching. Bye for now.